Welcome back to the Pulse. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Let's get down to the rest of our stories. And the Christian Council of Ghana is asking Parliament to hasten slowly in its quest for a legislation that will seek to clamp down on pastors and churches that prey on the naivety of members. Some members of Parliament yesterday argued the state must step in with a legislation to clamp down on what they term abuse of congregants by so-called men of God. But speaking to JoyNews, General Secretary of the Christian Council, Reverend Cyril Fayose, says the legislation will not solve the problem. We'll hear from the Christian Council shortly, but first, listen to some Ghanaians who have been sharing stories of abuse they have suffered in churches.
I remember my parents were asked to stop working. The reason was the jobs that they were doing was not from God. And so God wanted them to do something else. And that something else was linked to the church. And that meant that we're not going to be paid anything. It was difficult. It was hard to even see that some church members were asked to, give out their children and give out their babies because their babies were wizards and witches. And, for years, they don't even go back to look for them. In a church where you can be very sick, you can be extremely sick, then you go to the church and the church tells you that what is happening to you is spiritual. They keep you for days, weeks without treatment. I've seen church members die. If there's going to be any regulation, it is the right step and it's the right thing to do.
My sister was asked to, sell her things because there was a man who bought it for her. And so she also sold everything, including our fridge, TV, in fact, including our own clothes that we were wearing. We were asked them out and all that. So we came back to zero. In fact, it goes to a time we have to beg. You go and buy something, they'll tell you that this thing that you've bought is not good for you, the person that has bought the thing. And rather, if the pastor uses it, it's rather best for the pastor to use it. The pastor will take the thing and use it. Meanwhile, they say the thing is not good for you. I wish they could have a regulation for them. I mean, nowadays the churches around, only God knows.
You heard there are some Ghanaians that have suffered some form of abuse in churches. We can now hear from the General Secretary of the Christian Council of Ghana, Reverend Cyril Fayose, who says the legislation will not solve the problem. He adds that the council is meeting to draw up proposals which will soon be submitted to Parliament.
My immediate comment is that they should hasten slowly. We do realize the problem that is confronting us, and we are equally concerned. And we are also looking for ways to address the issue. But I don't think the solution is an easy way to legislation that will solve the problem. It's a more complex problem than it looks. So we are asking the legislators to hasten slowly. The Christian Council is working very hard so that we can come together as Christian leaders and do some stuff. But eventually we will need the state, the legislative body, to give us legislative backing. And when we get there, then we will need their support. So what I'm basically saying is that they should give us some time for the councils, Christian councils, to work on the problem, and then we'll come back for legislative backing.
But what do the ordinary Ghanaian make of this move by Parliament? Here are a few we caught up with.
A good idea. Why? Because, these churches, the way sometimes they do their things, selling in church, and there are some things it's not even supposed to be done in churches, but they are doing it just because they don't, or they are not under these rules and regulations. So I think it's okay.
Have you ever had any experience with these churches?
Me personally, I have not had any experience, but I think I have television, so I watch it on it, and some things, I don't want to mention names, but there are some things that they do. I don't think it's supposed to be done at that time or in the house of God.
I think when it comes to religious setup, it's an entity on its own, and everyone has its beliefs. So if, as a government is coming in to regulate it, I don't think it's going to be a good idea, because maybe whatever you are doing could favor someone. but another person will be in pain for your decision taking. So what I will advise the government to do is to sit these people down, and then they should come and agree on something, but not to say they are laying the regulations for them to follow, which are not going to be a good idea.
It's a step in the right direction, because some of the churches right now are really making people not go to church. They are really turning people's head up and down. I don't know. It's good that the government has to regulate them.
Yeah, I would say it's a nice idea. It's a good decision that they are taking, because pastors of today, they do things that, when you think of it, we don't understand, because things that they are doing in the church room, they are doing at the auditorium, it doesn't show that they are pastors. It's like they are people, even people who are outside will not do such a thing that they are doing at the auditorium. So it's a good decision that our leaders are taking. I prefer that they'll stop them from doing those things, but you can't just kiss someone's wife in the auditorium. It's not good. It's not good. It's not.
Now, joining me in the studio is Bishop Prince Benny Wood, who is the president of the Concerned Clergy Association of Ghana. Good afternoon. He's also Bishop of Leadership Chapel. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. I'm very pleased to have you in the studio. You would agree that this is a very delicate matter, and your colleague just said that a law can't deal with this matter. What do you agree with him in the first place?
Yes, I think that the parliament or the parliamentarians, they are being very emotional, and they are exhibiting a certain lack of understanding of the dynamics of church work as far as spiritual activities are concerned. If you look at the issues that they are raising, the first thing you do, if you think about regulation or you think about legislation, you ask yourself, what problem am I going to solve? Yeah. Once you identify the problem, you find out, is there a law that deals with the problem? Yeah. If there's no law, then you work. If there's a law, you leave the law to deal with it. The problem is not pastors taking advantage of people. The problem is the laws of Ghana not working very well in terms of how to deal with people. You realize that, I mean, people talk about what happens in church auditoriums and all that. The point is that there are regulations, there are laws that governs how people are supposed to be treated in every institution or in every environment. Yeah. When you go to the hospital, there are laws of how patients are supposed to be treated. When you go to police stations, even prisoners, there are laws how they are supposed to be treated. So if you think that people who go to church are being treated in a particular way, you have to find out what was the church registered for. Okay. If the church was registered, when you go to register general, you register the church, you register it as a non-profit organization or non-governmental organization. There are laws that governs non-governmental organizations and the activities. So if you think the church is flouting or the church is doing something criminal, apply the laws. You can't create a new law to deal with every single thing you think is wrong in society. That's not how societies are governed. It's emotional and discriminatory, and they lack understanding. They don't understand, and what they are doing is a waste of time. Okay,
so you say that you have to look at what the church has been registered for. Yes. Then you can talk. But there are a lot of churches, and if you listen to the people who were talking about how they've been maltreated in churches, the churches have been registered to do the things that church, to do spiritual things, but they end up doing same things. And you're talking about the law not working. There are some of these issues that do not even come out at all because of spiritual reasons. And you would agree that there are some men, the so-called men of God, who would even threaten their victims that if you go out and speak about it, you may die and all of that. So this is a delicate matter. And if you agree that it's a very delicate, or the delicate nature of this issue, and you don't want laws or a new law passed to deal with it, what would you have deal with these issues?
You see, a crime is a crime. It doesn't matter who is committing that crime.
How about the crimes that do not come
For example, the example you gave is just like the rape issue, where victims are threatened that if you say you will die. Yeah. But we are encouraging victims to speak up. Okay. Are we passing law to deal with perpetrators of rape? There are laws that governs rape, incidents. Okay. So we are not saying that because rape is rampant and victims are being threatened not to say it, we are going to pass a new law. No, we are still implementing the law against rape, even though victims. So if you go to church and you think that what is happening there is wrong, it's a criminal, and you can't say it, and you want to wait for government to pass the law. If the government passed the law, how is the government going to even implement it in the first place?
Okay.
It's not possible. Some of the reasons people are giving are reasons that have existed long ago. For example, people talk about, I am completely against maybe a pastor giving lotto number or something in church and all that. But the point is that lottery did not come to Ghana today. Since time immemorial, malams, fetish priests and all have been giving lotto numbers. You understand? So if you see a pastor giving a lotto number, he's bringing in something that maybe is not associated with church. Okay. But it's not parliament to say. Because parliament cannot define what a church is and what a church does, and what parliament work is to pass laws for Ghanaians, to protect Ghanaians.
And the people who go to the churches are Ghanaians.
Yes, but the point is, see, the religion is part, freedom of religion is part of the three most fundamental freedoms of every Ghanaian.
Okay.
I had a discussion with the Speaker of Parliament some time ago, and he told me that the reason why Parliament cannot do anything about this issue is because the freedom of religion is linked up with freedom of association and freedom of speech. So when you touch one, you end up touching all the others. So it's a delicate area. So in a case like this, how do you pass a law? If you say that, okay, people are having services during working hours, is it government to determine when somebody should work or not work? Okay. It's not government's business. If you have been employed by the owner of this institution, if you decide to use your time here to go to church and the owner has not, sacked you, how can government pass a law to keep you at work?
Okay.
That's not government's business. So if government think there are people who are using their working hours to go to church, they should let the institutions implement the sacking laws. And if they have to be sacked, they should be sacked.
With the timing, that was just by the way, I mean, when they were debating on the floor of the House. Yes, but most importantly is the fact that there are these criminal activities. But have you thought in your wildest dream what is accounting for this in the house of God, where criminal activities are now being committed?
There is nothing that is happening today that has never happened before. The only thing is that we have technology that when it happens, immediately it happens. Look, if you look at the Catholic Church, for example, some of the crime that have been associated with Catholic Church have not been associated with most churches, most denominations in the world. Okay. So what do we do? But in Parliament, they were praising them for establishing schools. Okay. But when you go to US and other places, Catholic Church is being repudiated. But no law has been passed. It's just that the law governing relationship between adults and children is being implemented. That is what is regulating the activities of the bishops who are taking children for granted and all that. Okay. So for me, I think that what the Parliament are doing, what they want to do or what they intend to do will not work because, first of all, they don't understand what is happening. And they are being emotional. They have not taken their time to understand the dynamics of what is going on. If, yes, Sunday, thousands of churches met. If by today we had front page newspaper or your TV station is saying that a pastor fondled a woman's breast, so you stand on that to pass a law. What about all the thousands of churches that you didn't hear anything like that about? So they have to be careful. What they are doing is discriminatory.
But this is not just an issue with one or two churches. We've had it with many other churches.
Now let me say, for example, let your station, your news media, let them give me, in 1 week, they should give me 10 churches in Ghana
where this is happening.
Yeah, this is happening.
And that's why I made the point earlier that sometimes you do not even get victims to speak up because of some of the spiritual connotations given to some of these activities. And then the people, the so-called men of God, would caution you that if you mention this to anybody, you will die. Or sometimes they even tell them that it's a healing process and all of that. And so a lot of people will not even come out to talk about this.
You see, I'm coming back to my point. Criminal issues are criminal. Don't let us religious criminal issues.
Okay.
Criminal issues are, if it's a crime, let the laws that governs the nation
but
deals
there's
with the
nothing
crime.
wrong narrowing it down to a particular issue. For instance,
That becomes
there
discrimination.
has
Our
been an
constitution
issue
frowns on discrimination.
of vigilantism, and even though there's a
because
criminal,
vigilantism is a crime.
Even though there's a criminal act,
it's an illegal act.
There's a criminal act that deals with crimes,
yes.
but we're still going ahead to pass the vigilantism bill because of the nature of
vigilantism is illegal.
But you think abusing church members is not?
That's what I'm saying. It's a crime. It's a crime within a legal body.
Exactly my
point.
So
you deal with the crime.
You want us to use the criminal act to deal with it.
Exactly.
But I'm telling you that if the issue is that dire, they can narrow down to that issue to be able to tackle it head on.
That will force it will still fall under the criminal code. It will still fall under the criminal code.
And you say that they don't understand the issue.
They don't understand because
in passing such laws, they normally will engage people like you who are in the church environment, who understand the issues in the terrain. They would invite all of you to get a better understanding that will inform the kind of law they are going to pass to deal with this issue. You still don't agree that we need a law?
You see, the point is that I think that if they want to deal with issues that they think they've identified within a particular religious denomination, they should find out if it's a general issue or it's just an isolated issue. If it's a general issue.
You understand the terrain better. Is this a general issue or isolated
issue? It's isolated. That's the point I'm making.
Even listening to all the people who are coming out?
It's just like Jesus having 12 disciples and one is a traitor. How do you say that all the disciples should pass
with all the people that you're listening to, it's just 1 out of 12?
It's 1 out of 12. Right now, it's even 1 out of 100.
Oh, wow.
There are pastors who are doing genuine work. And some of these issues, look, if you tell them that we go to Parliament themselves and tell them they should give you 5 pastors that they think are taking advantage of people, they themselves will not be able to.
I'm not sure Parliament is doubting that there are pastors who are doing the right thing. Yes, the Criminal Act was not passed because there are no people who are not doing.
I'm not against
people who are not doing the right
crime
thing
in the church, but I'm saying that let the criminal laws of Ghana deal with criminal issues in the church.
So your association, Concerned Clergy Association of Ghana, what have you done so far? Because I'm sure this is not the first time you're hearing this. What have you been doing to deal with this matter?
This issue, next year we will come and sit here and talk about. It's not going anywhere because it's a muted argument. It's not going anywhere. Look, what we need is that we have various councils and bodies within the kingdom of God or Christianity, and we relate to each other. We are associations, councils, organizations, and all that, and everybody decide on their own. You have to understand that you cannot force anybody to join any association that he is against. So if Parliament said they are going to pass a law, they are going to pass a law based on the churches they think are doing well, and then they are going to bring their principles to make the law. Now the point is that you cannot tell me that if you think that a church, a particular church, is a good church to you, I should also follow that same principle, because the Bible itself gives people opportunity to be able to have their beliefs based on what they are reading from the Bible. That's why we have different churches with different beliefs and all that. So you cannot just look at 1 or 2 people and say, let's pass and let's regulate, let's do this. Those kind of things are emotional and they lack of understanding of what.
And that's why I'm asking, if you don't want a law to be passed to deal with this issue in your own small way as an association, what have you been doing? We've seen so many videos, pregnant women, pastors stepping on their stomachs, pastors asking people to carry cement bags, pastors asking people to do a whole lot of things in the name of giving them spiritual. But
is that a crime?
All of it, it's not a crime to be stepping on a pregnant woman's stomach.
He's
an adult, but don't forget that it is the state's responsibility to protect its citizens.
Yes, but so has the state gone to those people to ask them whether what happened to them they did it consciously or they did it under hypnosis.
That is why they're proposing a law that will deal with all of these. Because if an individual knows that if a pastor, I go to a pastor for prayer and the pastor end up abusing me, this is the law, I can take him on through
there are laws.
A, B, C, D.
But that's what I told you.
It will be easier for the country to deal with such
laws
menace.
when you abuse. Abuse is a criminal issue. There are laws for abuse. You don't need a new law. What if they want to pass a new law? It means that they are going to neglect the old laws that already is used to regulate activities and all that. Churches are not there to do what they like. That's why you register and you are giving regulations. The forms that we take, we are giving regulations, and you are told to read.
So have you been doing something as an association to deal with this matter?
I am running, from the beginning of this year, I am running free Bible school across Ghana. I'm now, next month we are going to Volta. That is my contribution to stem some of the challenges that we face. But to bring in a regulation, a law, you can't do that because the issue is more complicated than what they think.
No, one member of parliament who seemed to be on your side is suggesting that even if there's going to be a law at all, it should be a law that would, you know, push all the churches to join any of the associations, like the one you belong, the Concerned Clergy Association, the Catholic Bishop Conference, the Christian Council, to be a member of any of those councils, so that those councils or associations would regulate those churches. You agree?
See, anytime anybody propose an attempt to take anybody's freedom, we should be very careful. I am president of an association. And
is there an attempt to take any freedom?
I would have loved to have all pastors join my association, and I'll be happy because I will be a president of a big association. But to force anybody to join it is you are taking the person's fundamental freedom. You should not joke with freedom when it comes to dealing with crime.
What's wrong with joining an association? I'm a journalist. If I choose to join the Ghana Journalists Association, what's wrong with it?
Yeah, but you can decide not to join. Nothing can happen.
But if you join it, there's nobody is taking any freedom. It doesn't stop you from
as much as you can decide to join and nothing happens to you. You can also decide not to join.
So you don't agree with this?
No, nobody should be forced to join any association.
Now the Christian Council is against this law, which it says will not help in dealing with the matter. But what they want is to bring up a proposal. What would be your expectation of such a proposal?
Well, I think that unfortunately some of these councils, they are part of the problem. They are part of the issue we are going through. They feed into some of the misunderstanding the parliamentarians are having. So I'm surprised that they are telling the parliamentarians, because they are part of the problem. They are feeding into some of these things.
How?
Yeah, they are. Some of them, they have documents and other things that describe churches as one-man churches, as if their churches was not started by one person. The problem is not just parliamentarians. Some of these churches that are speaking against some of the Christian Council, they are part of the problem. They are feeding into some of the misunderstanding the parliamentarians are having.
What exactly are they doing that is feeding into their misunderstanding?
Because they have forgotten that all their churches were started by one man. They are pushing this agenda of one-man churches, mushroom churches. They use those terms. And if you are a clergyman and your church was started by one man, is 100 years old, and today is an organization, and you know how church starts, and you go on air and say the mushroom church, and you say one man church, what are you doing? You are giving a kind of a power to an ignorant person who doesn't know how churches start and how churches operate.
How would you have had them describe such churches?
Yes, that's what they do.
And I'm saying, how would you have had them describe those churches?
A church is a church, whether it's started by one man or whatever, it's a church. Catholic was started by one man, they themselves claim. Methodist, John Wesley, Presby, and they all started by one man. So why are they making it look like a one man starting a church is a crime?
So you think that the proposal they're going to prepare to Parliament
won't get anywhere? The Christian Council should go and educate the parliamentarians that what they have been feeding them is wrong.
Okay. So that should be part of the proposal.
Yes. They should first of all explain to the parliamentarians that the idea of calling some church mushroom and one-man church is wrong. They should move their mind from there first. That's where the issue can be dealt with. They should stop denigrating churches who are not part of their denomination.
I'm grateful for your time.
Thank
Bishop Prince Benny Wood is the president of the Concerned Clergy Association of Ghana. Let's move on.